everyone. It's Margaret Martin, and we're talking with Margaret today about other chatter. We're continuing that from last week. I had a shortened program because I had a bit of a cough and I didn't want to, and a hoarse voice, and didn't want to give you a difficult time listening to that kind of radio program. So I do appreciate all of you who have been listening to the archived programs and hopefully they're providing you with some good tips. And just to let you know, we have in March, I did a lot of the information was on job searching. So there's information on resumes, job searching, using LinkedIn and other kind of social media for your job search. So feel free to take a look at that. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about me as I am Margaret Martin. I am the author of The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power. And one of the things I think that I find key about the work I do is I help people make positive change in their lives. And I do that in several different ways. And one of them, of course, is through being the author and then now providing programs for people based on the chatter that matters. And I also write a blog, and I am a speaker, so I like doing the keynote presentations based on the book, as well as other types of training programs. And I'm a life coach and a career coach. So I wear several different hats and thankfully balance them nicely. And so today let's get into talking about other chatter. And just for you who are listening live, you can call in and offer your comments if you'd like at 347-838-8835. So feel free to give a call in and offer your thoughts and comments on other chatter. Last week, I'll give you a quick review of what we talked about is in our conversations with others, it is important to have an awareness of how you come across to others, as well as how to listen well to them and communicate well to them. And one of the ways we talked about was if you're familiar with things, assessments like the DISC, Personal Profile, DISC, or the Myers-Briggs Personality Inventory, I think that those types of assessments really help us in our communication with others. And since I'm most familiar with the DISC, I use it a lot for communication skills, training, and team building. One of the things that I find very helpful is when people understand what their behavior style is, and those within their team or within their family or within their organization, they can communicate much better and with much more clarity, without a lot of misinformation going about. And so I think I'll just give you a quick recap on that. The D is the direct driver type person. These are the people who may often, because they're so focused and they just want to get in there and get the job done, and so they tend to be laser focused, laser spoken, and can sometimes appear as if they're cold and uncaring, which is not the case usually. They're usually very caring people. They just are focused in on what it is they're doing. And then the I person is the person that's interactive, very social. They'll talk to anybody, and I'm one of those people. And the most part, occasionally I'm a D when I'm in charge. So, and it all depends on the particular situation we're in. My two profiles stay generally. I've taken that profile probably 15 or 20 times over the years, and it only fluctuates between a high I and a high D depending on what role I'm assuming at that time. So the I's are interactive, very social. They're the ones you have to tone down in a meeting because we get all carried away and just we're there to have a social and good time. The S person is personality or personal style is a person that's very caring. They're very thoughtful and often very soft-spoken. They're excellent listeners, but very soft-spoken often, or they hold back. And often in a group meeting, you need to ask them for their opinion because they get so overwhelmed with some of the others that they just hold back. So their opinion is always very valuable because they also think things through and they don't rush into making decisions. So they also don't like change very well. So you generally have to guide them through any major changes that are going on. And then the C person is the what I call the critical thinker. They're your highly detailed people that do a lot of research, don't make decisions easily, and often are considered introverts because and they're for some of us who are the high I's, it's our conversations with a high C person, a critical thinker person is can be difficult. You really have to play down how your exuberance, and that's one of the skills I've had to learn to do as being as exuberant as I am. So if you can get a little bit of information, there's plenty of it out there on the internet, or if you'd like, you can certainly contact me for more information. And actually, I didn't give you my contact information. You can always find me at margaretmartin.com and be able to call me and email me from there. And so with the disc profile, looking at that, using things like that in your communication with others, then that allows you, as I said, when I'm talking to somebody that I know is a high C type person, I make sure that I'm to the point, that I don't talk too much and I'm not too exuberant. And it's not that I'm not being me. I'm also learned to modify my behavior and my conversations so that they are engaged. Because if you're too overwhelmed, too exuberant, and too much information for them, they'll just sort of shut down. So you don't want that. So it's learning to treat people the way they want to be treated and still remain who you are. And that's the key piece. So as we talk about how we can communicate better with people, one of the things that came up for me during the week, that often comes up, always actually, in two different types of training programs, conflict resolution and in communication, and that is giving constructive criticism. And I don't know about you, but every time I hear criticism, it never sounds like it's constructive, no matter what you call it. So I prefer to use the term feedback, because you can give what we would say negative feedback, but you can also do that in a more positive way. You know, when you say, I'm going to give you some may I give you some constructive criticism, that puts you on, tends to put people on guard and put them in defensive mode automatically. And of course, and then they tend to be resistant to listening to what you have to say. So I suggest that we change the verbiage to giving someone feedback. And sometimes, you know, we try to tell you what you did well as what you need to improve. And that's part of that whole communication thing. And especially if you're a manager, a business owner, even a parent, or, you know, whenever the people that are in your lives, that you have to give them some feedback and tell them how they can improve upon what they're doing. It's first of all, asking permission and making sure they're ready to listen. And I actually had that experience last night when, in my mastermind group, when someone was providing me with some feedback about a situation with a potential client that I had. And the interesting thing is some of the information had been miscommunicated to the person giving me feedback. So I was confused but I accepted it and thought, okay, well, so today I got on the phone with that person and we got it all clarified, so everything is good. But I could have sat here and worried about it for 3 or 4 days and used up a lot of negative energy. Whereas if you are, if you've got a situation like that, the best way to resolve it is approach it with, how can I do better? Looking at things, when you're the one getting the feedback, how you need to improve. If they aren't providing you steps of how you can improve, then ask. And for the people giving the feedback, that's always try to give them a solution to their situation, a way to help them in creating a better situation. and to do their job better, because people generally want to improve, and they are willing to hear feedback if it's presented well. You know, the business owner who said, if you don't like the way things are done around here, don't let the door hit you in the rear on the way out. That's not somebody you probably want to work with. So that business owner also needs to understand that these are the people that make the business run. So there are, a lot of different situations that we don't have time to go into today. But I think it's the clarification of distinguishing whether it's going to be criticism you're giving, constructive criticism, or honest feedback. And when you're correcting people, and I've had this situation going on when I was a project manager, and I related that story in the book, about when we had a renovation of my townhome community, and I was president of the homeowners association and semi-project manager. And one of the situation came up with a roofing contract. He's not the contractor. Anyway, one of the people on the professionals on the job, and he had done something that violated his contract. He allowed the roofing contractor to bring in subs in order to do hired another company to come in and do the roof. And that was part of the situation, is we were supposed to be the ones that gave permission to do that, but we had to know about it. So anyway, it all got resolved. But with another board member, I stood there and I said to him, I said, are you aware that you violated your contract? And this actually could lead to termination depending on what the board wants to do with this. Now, remember going forward that when we have any subcontractors on the job or any of these other things, you need to bring this to the board's attention so that everybody is clear here and there are no murky waters. And so he accepted that, and I could have come across as just a mean old witch and yelled, but that's not my style. And not the way I want to handle people or work with people, because we had many more months of work to do. And certainly I didn't want him upset with me or anybody on that job for that matter, because it certainly might affect the quality of work they do. We would hope not, but there's always that possibility. So make sure you're giving people, when you have to give them correction, whether it's even your children, it's looking at it. And I wasn't the best at it as a parent, I can tell you. My children can certainly tell you that. But one of the things I have learned through these years is be able to give the children feedback, just like as if respecting them as humans, because that's one of the things I've seen and observed, and I know you have as well, is so many parents that have children and then treat them badly and talk to them badly, like worse than they probably talk to their pets. And that distresses me. So that's part of what I'm here to help do, is to help people learn to communicate and respect each other and treat each other with kindness, even your family members. We choose the person to whom we get married, and after that, we really don't have a lot of choices as who is in our family. When we have children, they come along and they're there, and we have the responsibility to take care of them and try to guide them and raise them. But anyway, didn't mean to get into a parenting situation today. That's not the point, but it's the communication with our children that I think is important. Also, again, if you wanted to call in, it's 347-838-8835. So moving on, we're going to talk about one of the things that, as I thought about how we communicate with each other, and especially as we look at how we give often or have received what we might call self-fulfilling prophecies. And that's when, especially teachers sometimes do this, or when they determine whether they think you're smart or not, or their class is smart or not, the way they treat them based on their particular judgment, or perhaps what's been written in all of kept on file in the student's history, can make many teachers come in with a judgment about how they think they need to treat that student based on his or her history, and then often have that expectation that if they've been a poor student, they will stay a poor student, that they can't do anything to help them. And one of the things I came across in a training program one day is we were talking in communication, and that was this self-fulfilling prophecy, and I use this example in the book as well, is a college professor had three different classes, and one of the things that she decided to see if this would really work, and she told one class how how bright and smart they were, and how well they did on their tests, and went on and kept commenting and complimenting them throughout the next few weeks. And then when it came, then another class, she just didn't change her style at all. She just left everything sort of moot, and didn't compliment them one way or the other. And then the third class, she then told them that they could have improved. She didn't see that they were very smart. She was really surprised at how poorly they had done, and she really was hoping that they could do better, and continued that kind of attitude toward them over the next few weeks. Well, next test time, you can only imagine what happened. And that is the class she had complimented and told them how bright they were and how great they do in their work, they did even better. And when she told them of her experiment, they didn't believe her. They said, of course we're bright. And then the middle class, of course, they were just the maintaining the status quo. But the third class, when she told them of the experiment, they didn't believe her either, because they said, we know we're not smart. And the real truth is they were probably just as smart as the other class. They just had always been told, or their ego, their self-esteem was low, so therefore they didn't have a good feeling about themselves and feel like they were smart. And so certainly that can set the tone for people throughout their lives. I know I've heard different things that's why I think that evolves into our negative mind chatter so much, as some of these things that teachers and parents and coaches have told us through the years. And I get horrified sometimes watching some of these stories about what some of the coaches yell and say at these kids, and it just distresses me in the fact that they treat people like this. And it usually boils down to, when people are treating other people badly, it's because they don't feel good about themselves. And there's plenty of research out there on that, and that's been what I've observed over the last many years of my life. And so, in talking about self-fulfilling prophecies, I think one of the things I would suggest you do is try to be aware that what your expectation of others is based on things you read or see about, and so that about the person, so that you can actually maybe take a step back and say, you know what, there is a possibility this individual has changed, and maybe I can help them continue to change in a positive way. And I think that really can help not only you, it can certainly help them, and help them get on the right path. As several of you know, I have given some presentations based on the book, The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power, at several of the Florida prison locations for the graduation, their GED graduating class and ceremony. And many of them, when we talk about the negative mind chatter and the things that they continue to hear over and over again, some of it has become self-fulfilling prophecies to them. So I think this is why it's so important to make sure that we are not doing that to the people around us, and that we help those who are treating people like that to learn how to treat people better. Okay, one of the other things I thought we'd talk about briefly today is gossip. How many people get involved in gossip? It's hard not to sometimes. But I think once we become aware of what gossip does and what it really is about. We're really talking about stuff most of the time we don't really know for sure is fact. And before, remember well, there used to be a game, I think we called it gossip as well as telephone. And by the time, you whispered something in somebody's ear as a kid, by the time it went to the 20th person, it was almost nothing like it started out. So that's basically what happens with gossip. And sometimes I think in some of the entertainment shows, and look at that stuff and think, why do people spend so much time worrying about all of this, and maybe they use it strictly for entertainment. But gossip can be very destructive. It can almost turn into a bullying kind of thing. So I think being aware of what type of conversations you're having with others, and if you realize it's becoming a conversation of gossip, either step out of it or try to change the subject. It's because when we get into gossip, we become judging, and we tend to slander other people. And if they were standing there and in that conversation, we wouldn't be doing that. So I think one rule of thumb is to be able to not say anything about others that you wouldn't want them to hear. It's sort of like me posting on the internet. I don't put anything on Facebook or LinkedIn, Twitter, or any of the other social media that I don't want the world to know. And so I try to hold that standard as well in my conversations. And yeah, I slip. Believe me, I do. I'm certainly not perfect, but I think it's one of the things that we can help do, is to be able to guide people when they're off on a tangent about something. Maybe figure out a way to nicely say, "Are you really sure about this?" And question some of the things that people have said. And making sure that you're not judging, and what's the difference in judging and observation is, if you see someone that is dressed badly, in your opinion, you may think they're either poor, they're homeless, or any and all of these things, and start, sort of judging them and criticizing them in your mind. And whereas if you observe it and just say, oh, okay, I wonder why, or give it no other thought other than to say, oh, I see this person happens to be dressed this way or that way, and let it go. That's observation. When you talk about it to others and think more about it and continue to hold it in your mind, to me, this is judging. But then again, this is all based on my point of view. And as we're wrapping up the half hour this morning or this afternoon, I want to thank you again for taking time to listen to the archives. It is very meaningful to me, and hopefully you have had some interesting thoughts and that may have helped you make some positive changes. And feel free to reach out to me at margaretmartin.com. You can purchase the book, The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power, directly from my website. Or it's certainly available on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles. It's available as an ebook, so it's on iTunes as well. It's Books A Million. All of the sites out there, you can be able to either purchase and download the book, or ship it. And if you want a signed copy, email me, and you can at mmartin@margaretmartin.com. And we'll work out the details about paying and shipping, and I can sign it directly for you. So thank you again for tuning in today to Talking with Margaret about other chatter. Next week, we'll be talking about protective chatter, and I look forward to hearing from you then. Bye now. Make it a great one.